Hello, I hope you are living and breathing and doing well. I mean, I guess you have to be doing at least two of those things to be here right now, so that's good news. Hopefully. I wanted to make a video kind of just generally discussing level 1 autism as well as what that looks like for me and how that matches up to things one might expect from or in a level 1 autistic person. And I'm going to be looking into this chart that has been going around that talks about each of the levels. I believe that the original creator of this specific chart is Pixie Rainbows on Tumblr. That is what, from my little research, that seems to be where the chart came from, and they used different resources to kind of compile and put it together. And I found this chart very, very useful personally, and it was very helpful to kind of see and compartmentalize many of the things that come along with level 1 autism and how that might be different from level 2 and level 3. So yeah, if you're here, you probably know that autism is diagnosed by levels now, and high functioning and low functioning are not necessarily terms that are used, and where historically they once used the diagnosis Asperger's to diagnose a more high functioning form of autism, and that is no longer a thing for many various problematic reasons, which you probably might also know if you're here. But yeah, so I was diagnosed with level 1 ASD, which is requiring support. Level 2 is requiring substantial support, while level 3 is requiring very substantial support. Okay, so starting with some of the social autistic traits that might appear in one with level 1 autism. The first is that strangers may be able to tell I have a disability, or they may think I'm just awkward. This one is huge. This is absolutely huge for a lot of level 1 autistics, especially late diagnosed ones. I think that tends to be a lot common in autistic people with lower support needs, just completely flying under the radar, and I was definitely one of them. So I do think that there were likely many times during my life where people thought I was anything but disabled, one of the very common themes I was told growing up a lot is that you're too sensitive, or you're too dramatic, or you're too, basically the way that my nervous system responded to the world was unacceptable. But in a way they were right, because yeah, I am extremely sensitive. I struggle to cope with random regular things that a lot of other people might not even think twice about. So it's yeah, at the end of the day, I was more sensitive, and there were reasons for that. But even further, a lot of things that were also said about me as a child, she's just shy, or a lot of gendered traits as well, where it's seen as more normal for young girls to be reserved or to be people pleasers or to keep more to themselves, where it might be more acceptable for males and male children to kind of have these outbursts to externalize their distress and their emotions and the difficulties that they're feeling on the inside, and girls are much more likely to internalize and kind of let it all boil up and shut down and not seek that support because it is less acceptable for them to externalize those emotions, at least in ways that many autistic people might. For example, having big meltdowns or even being angry, certain emotions are just not seen as acceptable. But this definitely applies to me because no one ever actually realized, not even therapists that I had seen, no one ever questioned me because I seemed to be doing all the right things on the outside, For example, doing well in school, grade-wise. But what about all the other aspects that went into that? Like not even being able to stand 7-8 hours of public school, having to be homeschooled, having mental breakdowns at school, having to be put in there, like all of these things, right? Where it's like no one ever questioned me because I seemed to be doing the things that I was supposed to do. So like all of the side effects of that were ignored. So I really just assume that throughout my life, many people probably just thought that I was awkward or weird. I mean, that was like one of the main things I was bullied for as a child. It's like, oh, like you're weird. Like, tell me something I don't know, honey, because be original, okay? Be original. At least do that. Okay, the next one. I may have difficulty understanding social cues such as body language and tone, or I may have been able to learn these cues with a lot of effort. I, being alone and isolated for most of my childhood and teenage years, spent so much time observing people. I spent so much time observing people because, well, that's all I could do. Like, if you're alone, if you don't have friends, you don't necessarily have a social group, and you just have to sit through life, like, you take in everything that's going on around you and you notice the details and you study people in a sense. Like, I have spent years of my life studying people in that way, where I observe and I see everything, and whether or not it makes sense to me, I understand that, like, the social world is just this game that we play. It's this game that we play. It is a game that I suck at playing, but I am definitely able to pick up a lot of the ways that I should be responding and how I should be acting, even if I'm not always able to correctly exhibit those same behaviors, because it takes a lot of mental effort and it doesn't come naturally to me the way that it might to other people. But there are times where I really have no idea what someone is like feeling or thinking. There are a lot of times where I will miss like somebody's tone, or I will miss sarcasm, or I will miss a joke, or I will take the sarcasm or the joke at face value only for them to be like, oh, I was joking, and I'm like, oh, okay. Maybe you should say that. Maybe you should say that sooner. Okay, the third one, I struggle with making and keeping friendships and relationships. Yeah, I always have. Ironically enough, romantic relationships have not been difficult for me. Not that the relationships themselves haven't been difficult, but I've had more luck at keeping romantic relationships than keeping friendships. And I feel like there are a lot of layers to that. But yeah, definitely struggling to make and keep friends. Like right now I have approximately 0 friends. I do really wish that that was an exaggeration, but no, like I have not one single friend at the moment. It isn't always the case, and there might be times in my life where it's like I make a friend, but it lasts like a few months at best nowadays. And it's so hard to know how to like keep the ball rolling. And it's like, how do you know when you're friends with someone? Like, how do you know when you're friends? Like, I wouldn't just call everyone my friend. You know what I mean? Like, what makes a friend? And don't people have different standards and definitions for that? I don't know. But yeah, it is extremely hard to both make and keep friends, despite the fact that I need human connection, but it's fucking extremely hard and it sucks. Okay, on to behavior. So I may have sensory issues and struggle with loud sounds, bright lights, bad textures, etc. I feel like, personally, the sensory aspects of autism are just as, if not even slightly more significant than the social. As much as like the social world sucks and doesn't make sense so much of the time, You can at least like study it. You can learn. You can try and understand people and understand the way that the world works. But like when waking up is just like a sensory nightmare, what do you do? You know? What do you do? I will say that after my diagnosis, I, of course, was able to actually understand myself and realize why so many things upset me or put me in distress or just made me absolutely lose it. And I was able to say, oh, those are sensory issues. That's what that is. Okay, that's what's going on. And so I could do things to not hate life as much, like, for example, not wear clothes that make me want to freak out and die. Step one, I didn't realize exactly why I was so uncomfortable with so many just like basic things in life. Like, for example, I cannot stand getting my hands wet. I absolutely cannot stand getting my hands wet. It makes me so angry. And for that reason, when I finally started to realize, like, oh, this is why I'm so angry and upset right now. What do? You don't like getting your hands wet? Wear gloves when you wash dishes. Your world will flip. It will turn upside down. It will be a whole new world, okay? It's great when you understand yourself and then you can actually accommodate that. It's amazing. 10 out of 10. I need to fidget and move around a lot even when I don't have surplus energy, or I may feel the need to, but have been trained on acting out of it. I don't know if this one personally applies to me very much. I don't think that I need to fidget all the time. I feel like fidgeting is more related to anxiety for me, so like the more anxious or stressed I become, I will be like fidgeting and moving and like stimming and like, self-regulating behavior. But I feel like just like I can just sit still. Like I don't constantly have that need to be fidgeting. I have strong and specific interests. I usually only like one or a few things at a time, and these interests last for years. Oh my gosh, yes. I don't know how no one realized this. Well, I do know why they didn't realize it, but I have gone through so many phases in my life where my special interest is usually a person, like a celebrity, a musician type of thing. This makes me sick now. Also, what is with the like Justin Bieber obsession as a child to like queer woman pipeline? Like, I hear so many queer women say how when they were a child they were obsessed with Justin Bieber, and now they're like, I'm a lesbian and I love women. Actually, I said this to someone the other day, and they were like, maybe it's because he looked like a girl, and I was like, oh. But anyways, when I was a child, I had every single inch of my wall covered with posters of Justin Bieber. I kid you not. As much as I would like to be embarrassed by this, I just don't even really care anymore. I don't care. But yeah, this lasted years, and when I tell you the amount of information that consumed my brain about this dude is unbelievable. It's so bad to where, like, I can't even get rid of it today. Like, I can tell you that Justin Bieber was born on March 1st, 1994, 12:56 a.m. on a Tuesday. Why do I need that information in my brain? It is useless. It is taking up space. It is absolutely useless. Okay? But it's there, and there's nothing I can do about it. And I just, I move on, and I move on to another obsession that lasts a couple of years, and life goes on, and I take up more information in my brain with useless things, but it makes my heart happy, so that's all that matters. One of my, like, interests is sociology and just, like, human behavior and group behavior. Ironically, I think it's because, like, I sucked at social life, and, like, I didn't understand, and, like, that desire to understand made the subject so interesting to me. Like, not only that, but, like, there's a passion for, I have a very, very strong passion for social justice in many aspects, and so ultimately it's like what do? You just take your special interest and you get a degree in it because we're supposed to do that in life. Like, that was the easiest 4 years of my life. It's so much fun. It's so much fun. I may shut down where I lose the ability to speak. Yes, I have had many autistic shutdowns throughout my life, and I had no idea that that's what I was experiencing until I was diagnosed and actually had the ability to understand what was going on and how my brain works. Change distresses me, but unless I'm already having a hard time, I can cope if I'm given some time to process. Yes and no. I feel like I never truly cope with the stress of change because life is constantly changing and there's almost nothing you can do to avoid that, which is why obviously like routines are so comforting to us autistic people, because the world is so unpredictable and the social world is so unpredictable, and if there's anything in the world that can be predictable, that can provide structure, it's the things you can control, right? Like your routines, your repetitive behaviors, the things that you know you can rely on, because out in the rest of the world you don't have that anywhere. On to development, I was most likely in general ed with or without an IEP, or had my time split between general and special ed. I was an undiagnosed child, so none of this applies to me. I may have needed speech or occupational therapy or support services, but likely did not. I did not. I may have had developmental delays, but I also may have hit milestones on time or early. So in my case, I seem to have been hitting a lot of developmental milestones early, or at least early compared to what is typical or standard. I, for example, started talking very, very early, and I think by like nearly 2 years old, I was apparently having like full-on adult-like conversations with the people around me. I mean, I don't remember being 2 years old, but that's what I was told. And I find it very interesting too, because I think many people have the misconception that that autism only comes with delayed development, but it can also be like rapid or like quicker than typical. And I think that was my case from the knowledge that I have. I have high, normal, or low intelligence. Yeah, one of those. Life skills. I can complete all ADLs, for example, bathing, eating, drinking, and getting dressed by myself or with prompting. This is also a yes and no. I have always done these things by myself, but it doesn't mean I do them well. For example, I struggle to eat a lot and remember that like, oh, this is a daily thing that I need to do multiple times a day, and the executive functioning that comes with eating is so stressful. Like the thought of like, okay, I need to go to the grocery store to acquire food, but in order to do that, I need to know what I want to eat, and then I need to make a list of all the things that I want to eat, and then I need to go get them, and then I need to come home, and then I need to put all of those things away in a fridge where there's a bunch of other shit, and everything is just blending together, and I can't even look at it, right? And then you have to actually prepare and cook and store the food and deal with the cleanup afterwards, and it is just like so unbelievably stressful and overwhelming to me, the entire process, that I just don't do it a lot of the time. And it's definitely had an impact on my health. Like, I have dealt with hunger pains for years because it is just so hard, and I honestly don't understand how people feed themselves every day. I do not understand for the life of me because it is so difficult. But other than that, yeah, I do all of these things by myself, just maybe not to the standard that I would hope for. I need support to complete IADLs, for example, shopping, cooking, budgeting, or I need someone else to do these things for me. Going back to my point about professionally starving half of the time. I'm able to live independently or with support. I may need someone to help keep me on track. Unfortunately, I have never lived independently, and I do think that I would probably struggle a lot. I mean, the closest I've lived to independently is like in shared living situations, like college dorms, for example, where of course you're on your own, like in terms of resources and all of these things, like no one is helping you. But I've never lived as a single person in one unit with absolutely no one else around. As much as I would love to, I'm not sure how it would go. Language, I am fully verbal. That I am. I may have a flat tone or lack of appropriate expression. I do feel that when I am just being my absolute self, I can tend to have a really monotone or flat sounding voice when you're not like, out in public pretending to like be normal. The customer service voice that you put on. But yeah, I do think that I do tend to have like a flatter voice. My understanding of language is generally sound. Yeah. So this is really interesting, and then the chart also goes on to cover traits of level 2 and level 3 autism. I think this really just provides a little bit of perspective into how different autism will be for every autistic person and for people who are within different levels. For example, when we go into level 2, we see that I need handover prompting or physical support to complete all or most ADLs, for example, bathing, eating, drinking, and getting dressed. When people say that autism is a spectrum, I think that what most people imagine, and what I would have imagined probably in the past as well, is like a line, like a straight line going from like least autistic to most autistic. But it really is so different for every person. Even two people that are diagnosed at the same level can have different variations of different autistic traits, and as they say, when you've met one autistic person, you've met one autistic person. Anyway, so this is my little chat about level 1 autism and my experience with it in relation to this chart that I thought was really handy and really cool. Definitely recommend checking it out. If you're interested, I'll put it in the description. But yeah, I enjoy talking about autism and autism stuff, and I hope to keep doing that in the future. I am so sorry if you're as frustrated as I am about the glare, okay? Because I have a light in front of me, and I don't have anti-glare in my glasses, and this is going to be a problem. I just know it is because it's bothering me. But I'm also reading, so like I can't take my glasses off because then I can't see. The last time I did this, I just took my glasses off, but if I do that, I cannot see. Anyway, if you listen to me ramble, thank you so much. I hope you're doing well. I hope you're taking care of yourself. I hope you are having a good time, and if you're not having a good time, I hope that you can be kind to yourself and take it easy and know that you are worthy and deserving of life and love, and you belong here on this planet. Even if you don't feel like you do, you belong here and you have a place here, and you are worthy and you deserve happiness. I will be back rambling about something else soon, because you totally care. Okay, goodbye.